Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. 1:35, all good. Start with you, Madam Secretary. Anything you want to say?
It's just, please take a look at your phone, make sure that it's either on silence or it's off. That would be very helpful. And welcome.
Well, all right. Reed, you good to start us off?
Would you join me in prayer, please? Lord, I'm going to speak very loud today because we're praying for all of our brothers and sisters in Florida that are undergoing this terrible, terrible storm. We ask you to be with them, that each one of them may survive and prosper. We also ask you to bless all those in Georgia and North Carolina and South Carolina where the storm's coming to. Here at Mount Vernon Towers, we thank you for our blessings. And we ask you to continue to bless us day by day as we continue to love you. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Okay, so then I will move to approve the minutes from last month.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye, okay. Rita, you're on.
All right. Okay, on the financials, this month I provided a summary page, hoping that it's a little easier to follow. On the summary page, number 1 shows our total revenue for August at $478,522. That's $31,000 better than budget for the month. The favorability comes from the continued increase in PCC revenue, as PCC revenue was better than budget by $26,000. Our overall year-to-date revenue is better than budget by $279,000. On number 2, shows our total expenses of $403,685, better than budget by $46,000 for the month. Our year-to-date expenses is under by budget by $49,000. Number 3 shows our net income for the month at $74,000, which is under budget by $84,000. Our total net income is roughly $320,000 better than budget year-to-date. We continue to stay on pace and be financially responsible, but we certainly have areas in some of the departments to work on. Our larger cash outlays for the month, other than our usual expenses, totaled $42,000. That covered our renewal of our D&O insurance, our 6-month elevator maintenance, and an air unit pump repaired to the front circle, which I did recover $5,000 from the company that hit it. Moving on to cash, as of 8/31, our capital account balance was $1,352,807. Our operating cash balance was $349,382 for a total of $1,702,188 in cash. We've increased our total cash by $531,000 since December of 2021. Areas that I continue to look at as far as the budgeting is electricity. We have noted that the past few months. Looking forward to next year, Georgia Power is trying to get an increase of 12% over the next 3 years, so that's a big number that continues to jump out at me.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to take just a minute to expand a little bit on the sort of where we're at right now and how we're looking at the end of the year, because we're going to come up to the budgeting process. So I just wanted to sort of set the stage for that as we move to the budgeting process for the end of the year. Hey, Janice, Reed did not get a copy of that.
Yeah, I did.
Could you just share with him? So just in general, I just want to remind everybody a little bit about, last year and what we were focused on. We were, we first started by saying one of the key principles for last year was to make sure that our HOA dues met our operating expenses. So we've been focused on that for most of the year. We laid that out and said, that'll probably be in 2024. We'll probably be at that point where we actually cover But that was a guiding principle. We were also focused on the recovery of the PCC revenues. We were keeping a critical eye on, some of the spending and what we were doing there. And we tried to lay out, as you remember, a buy-in for the initiation fees, which didn't pass. So we were unable to get that revenue in. But we also know that we were focusing on planning versus just dealing with surprises, which we had done in the past. And we wanted to make sure that we had moved money into maintenance so that we didn't have these surprises, we could afford them. We're just more careful about how we went about business. And it was really kind of an austere year. So we were focused on some of the indicators that were out there. We had rising inflation, as you know, as we're all living right now. It actually exceeded our expectations. In terms of the inflationary pressure. It hit 9.1 at some point. It's down to about 8.3 right now in the last reports. We had budgeted for 7.5. We've been able to manage that pretty well. I think we were thinking that pressure would go away sooner rather than later. Doesn't seem to be going away. Hopefully, with some changes and different forecasts and some of the things that might happen after the election, hopefully that those things will start to subside. But we'll have to see. It's right in the front of our mind. One of the things that is also out there is, we've had this, we put out a sort of a notion of a capital plan and wanted to be able to execute on a capital plan, but it takes a lot to do the kind of work that we needed to do. And really, the people on the Chase Committee and, we're looking at those prices and we're saying, well, that could be a couple of $1 million. So quite expensive to do. And, in this period of time, we have to assess things like the critical nature of it, how important it is to do. We want to get it done. We need to get it done. We have stuff to do to the building. No question about that. But you've also got, sort of your funding mechanisms. The interest rates have been rising. And so funding those things are more difficult now, more expensive than they were. So, we have to keep all those things in mind. And so the only thing that I want to make sure that we're doing through the budget process is making sure we understand it and that we're taking the right time to take advantage of the things that we can take advantage and not let us dictate what happens, right? So that we make the best decisions with the funds that we have. So that's really important. We're going to focus on that. We're going to continue down the path, of trying to continue to invest in the capital reserve, because the more money that's in the capital reserve, the better either borrowing power we have or funding power we have. So we'll be focused on that. Just some of the things that are on the schedule for the upcoming year, really augmentation of the capital reserve. I just mentioned that. We do have issues with the dining expenses. We're not going to shy away from that. We try to keep a careful eye on that. There are great pressures on the food and staffing costs there. There are also other inflationary pressures that we are facing, and that has been like the utilities. I mean, if you think about the dining and utilities, that's what's driving any negative, sort of funding, or I don't want to say funding, that's not the right word, but just sort of the cash, the experience, the quality of what we can do is affected greatly by the costs that we're facing. We do want to boost some professional fees. We have agreed to take on an architect to help us to create a master plan for the facility, because we think that that's important. There are certain things that are important to us, making sure that the building lasts for a long time. The fact that we get new amenities or amenities that we can enjoy in the current period while we invest for the future. So those things are on our mind, and I think this board has agreed. I don't think the board has agreed. The board has agreed that we are going to help ourselves a little bit to get some professional help in doing that. And we also want to invest a little bit more in our website and marketing to make sure we have the right information access, we have the right facility there, we have the right communication tools. So that's what we're going to be focused on. Are you sharing, is this shared on the screen? So I just want to talk a little bit about the numbers, where we're at. And this page is coming from, that you're seeing up there, is coming from last year's budget presentation.
There's
It's
nothing
up
on the screen.
Oh, there's nothing? Oh,
Your third page, you're on it. Yeah, yeah,
There's nothing on the screen.
yeah. Oh, there's nothing on the screen?
Nothing.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll talk to it. I'll just continue to talk to it. It'll come up. I'm sure Clay will get it up, because that guy is a genius. At least he thinks he is.
We think he is.
Yeah, we think he is. But he could be he could be confusing us. So, last year we said our income from the HOA dues after the increases would be about 4.7 million. And we're right on that. It's 4.701. Our annual expenses, though, we forecasted with the reserve at about close to 4.8, and we're actually at about 5. So we're about 200,000. It's actually $239,000 over where we would have expected our expenses to be. That's negative for us, obviously, but just so that you know, 215,000 of that is actually been put in our reserve. So it's not that bad. We did manage to put a lot of those expenses into the reserve. We would have ordinarily done that, but we also added about $35,000 to that on top about mid-year, continuing to invest in the capital reserve for any upcoming things that we got to do. And of course, I already said that that cost was pretty much driven by the dining and the utility expense. We did have, though, the good news is that we've had a lot of additional income from our operation. Not necessarily the dues, right? Because that's what we expected it to be. But we did turn around. There was a big turnaround in the PCC, and guys like Emerson over here, who has been a great evangelist for it, doing your tours. I love that. And that has been a real turnaround story for us, and so it's generated a lot of extra income. We've had other income into other areas, but we're about $300,000, a little over $300,000 favorable in that area. The cash on hand is also a pretty impressive stat. When you saw the presentation last year, we were forecasting, I think at least in October and November, we were forecasting that we were actually going to be at about close to $100,000 in negative cash. We were going to be borrowing from the capital reserve to sort of get through that event that was going on in the PCC, where we weren't generating the extra income. And because we were able to sort of ramp that up pretty quickly, we had the open house, got that going, we actually got really favorable in terms of the cash, and that $97,000 of negative cash flow that we expected went away. And now at the end of this year, while we don't have a ton of cash, that is in our operating account, that will be in our operating account at the end of the year, we'll have about close to 100,000, about 86,000. We have managed to squirrel away a solid I think it's 143 into the capital reserve. So our total cash on hand, our cash available to us, has gone from 117 to 151. So we're up about $330,000 or $340,000 in cash overall. All that means is that we were able to generate the income, and we were able to keep all of that income. And so that's just really important, because as I mentioned, as we go into a capital phase, we're going to need that. So did you have something?
Well, I just wanted to point out to keep in mind that this is the forecast and not actual.
Yeah, I mean, Rita's reminding me that we're looking at it today, and that's a forecast for the end of the year. But if there's nothing, I mean, something has to surprise us at this point,
Right.
right?
I just want to point that out because that's why that number looks different than what the
Oh, than what's
actual-
on your cash,
What the
because-
actual it was at the end of August, because we're projecting what we're gonna spend for boiler and all that stuff coming
Right,
forward.
right. So that's at the end state after those expenses. So, so it's good news. You know, it's not the greatest news in the world. We still have expenses that we could try to deal with, right? But knowing that inflation is sitting there hearkening us, and knowing that we've been in a good position this year, you know, I feel really positive about, you know, getting the budget together, having a good budget next year, and just making sure that, you know, we stay on track, we stay the course, because I think that as we pull through an inflationary period like this, we could be in really good shape. Having said that, I mean, I think that what that, you know, says that we'll be sending something out for the budget committee. I know the board members will all want to be on the budget committee. We'll probably take, you know, maybe one or two other people. Obviously, what we think we need on the budget committee is folks with some sort of, you know, either capital planning, finance, something that will help us to navigate through the budget and the capital side of that, because it's quite a bit of, it could be quite a bit of work. So we're looking for that, and information will come out. I think we'll probably put something out on that in the next Towers Talk. So I'll leave it with that and let you continue. Thanks.
Okay. Now, when you say next Towers Talk, are you meaning this week or next week?
Next week.
Okay. Let's see. All right, moving on to dining. Our meals in August was 6,573 meals served. You know, like we mentioned, we're continue to work with dining and the service and the quality and the issues with the budget in there as well. One of the questions that's come up is, are we really getting a new menu on October 1st? That's when I was told the new menu would come out for the new season. This week, we were supposed to have the executive corporate chef here, but he had to cancel because he's got COVID. Him and Damien are working virtual this week. They're gonna have a new menu to look at by the end of the week. I think it should go to Scott and the committee to look at and go over, so I would say it's gonna be delayed by a week or so, depending on how soon you guys can look over it. Sales and leasing, we have 3 condos for sale, 3 condos for lease. You'll also notice that a couple months ago, some of the owners requested that I publish at the end of each month, you know, a running total of all the condos sold for the year, so I've added that, so you can take a look at that. That's as of August 31st, that we know that's closed. It's public information, so. Construction, we've got 3 condos under renovation that are almost near completing. A couple people have emailed this morning asking what's going on outside of A114 because that condo has been under renovation. I'll let Scott explain what's going on outside of it, but it has nothing to do with the owner because the owner's getting calls being asked what's going on.
Okay, what's happening at A114 is that the stucco surrounding the HVAC unit has been removed so that the contractor that's bidding on the project can evaluate what's really behind there and to get a full understanding of the need to get a correct bid on their part. We will be putting on a coating on that tomorrow morning. There'll be an aluminum coating going on it, which would be a sample of what this particular contractor is proposing in his bid. He'll be here tomorrow. It'll be on there for a few days. In the first part of next week, it'll be removed and the stucco will be replaced until we make a final decision on what is to happen to all of the chases. So this is an exploratory activity, not a permanent activity, okay?
So questions, just to mitigate some calls. The mock-up that's going up has nothing to do with the actual color that is been approved, there's been no color approved or anything, right?
There's no color approved, and this is a color that the individual contractor selected from his scrap material, if you will, because obviously he's not gonna go wanting to buy a small patch for us, so it'll be from scrap material.
Okay.
Okay.
Scott, is he putting the whole system on there or just the skin walls?
He's putting the skin on the walls, and when you mean whole system, I'm not sure I understand.
The tray and everything that goes.
Yes, the tray will be there, and the opening for the resized opening for the HVAC unit will be there. He just told me about an hour ago that he may not have the louver system to go on there, because that's a little more complicated to make in 24 hours, because they stripped this off yesterday and making the material today and putting it on tomorrow.
And also, I want to note, if you go out and look at it right now, it looks nothing like it did yesterday when they stripped it off. When they stripped it off, the studs were just hanging there, they weren't attached, they were rotted. Rick worked till about 3:30 yesterday rebuilding what he could there. There was no concrete, everything was gone out from underneath it. So it looks much different today than it did yesterday.
Yeah, and that was part of the exploratory process, to find out what's really going on behind these chases, and it was eye-opening. But we're progressing, and there'll be more to come on that. Dan's got another one.
So did Rick take the HVAC unit out?
No,
So the contractor took it out?
no,
It's out? I was
no,
just
it's
there.
not. It's never been moved.
I've got pictures showing that it's gone. It's
Unless it
inside.
left in about an hour, 2 hours ago, it was there at 11
There.
o'clock.
I took my pictures at 1:30 and it's sitting inside of the.
Okay, well, Rick took it out this morning for other reasons, his own reasons, whatever they may be. Because that was part of the project, was to see how we could do this without removing the HVAC units. And it can be done, it will be done that way, to where they don't have to be removed. Of course, unless something is discovered in the process, but that would be a 1%, 2% type of situation, not every unit, so, okay.
All right. The next thing is not on the agenda, but the collection policy.
Hello, can everyone hear me? The board this morning has approved the new collection policy that we've been discussing for a couple of months now, and I want to read it to you. It will be available to you if you need one immediately. You can see Rita, she'll give you a copy. Starting October the 1st, this will be in effect. The Mount Vernon Towers collection policy, as required under the association's governing documents, Mount Vernon Towers Homeowners Association dues are to be collected by the 11th of each month. On the 12th day, your account will be considered late. If necessary, negotiations of late HOA fees may be discussed between owner and management before payment is due on the 11th of each month. Do you need some?
You okay?
Okay. When the account has been declared late, the unit owner or owners and any renters will be notified and required to reimburse the association for its time, inconvenience, and overhead in collecting the past due amount described below. There will be a 10% late fee charge will apply for all invoices not paid by the 12th of each month. Consecutive 10% per annum interest charge will be applied to the entire outstanding debt until full payment has been submitted. A 10% interest fee will not be charged for the month the payment is due, but will be charged thereafter. Late payments and interest charges are different items. There is also an example that will be along with the policy as well. Once an account becomes 30 days late, the unit owners, and tenants will be restricted from the following. For any lessees, the unit owner will also be notified. The restrictions are any common area facilities, paid storage facilities, dining area, once meal allowance has been utilized, participation on any committee, all activities including free bus services, any MVT service with the cost associated, TV, laundry service, condo cleaning, paid bus services. Once an account becomes 60 days late, the unit owners, and tenants will be referred to an attorney or collection agency and will be notified of such an action. As a result, the following may apply: a receipt of a collection letter, a lien placed on property, a lawsuit filed for foreclosure of property, a member's account to be billed all fees incurred by attorney or collection agency. An account that is not current by the annual meeting date will not have the following voting rights or voting privileges. Once the association receives full payment and is cleared, privileges will be restored. For any reason a check is returned, the issuer will be billed $35 or 3%, whichever is greater. In the event of a lessee's check is returned and the fee is not recovered, the owner will be assessed the $35 return check fee. Again, this policy will be available in the residence manual. It'll be also on the owner's portal, and it will take effect October the 1st of this year.
One quick question, you used the word may 2 or 3 times. Who makes that determination whether it will or will not?
Let me look to see where I used the word may.
Maybe.
Maybe. As a result, the following may apply.
Right.
You will either receive a receipt of a collection letter, a lien placed on property, lawsuit filed for foreclosure of property, member's account to be billed all fees incurred by an attorney or collection agency. It could be one or all, and that would be probably legal.
Probably read it.
Legal.
Well, question is, who's going to decide whether it will or will not is the question, not
We're gonna refer to the lawyer, and the lawyer will decide. We will refer the action to the lawyer, to our attorney, and the attorney will decide what is the best method of communicating what action.
So one of those will be done, it's just a question of which
One of those.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Rita.
All right. Board-led groups, budget, nominating.
I'm sorry.
Board-led groups, budget, nominating. I think you kind of touched on that. You're going to put something out in next week's Towers Talk.
On the board, we'll send, on the budget committee, we'll send something on Towers Talk.
Okay, nominating committee.
And on the nominating committee, I'm going to nominate Janice to lead the nominating committee.
With the help of
Reed, you want in?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so Reed's in, so Janice and Reed will co-lead the nominating committee. And, you know, as usual, we'll send out some sort of announcement. You'll determine what the processes will be,
Right.
what the communication will be,
Right.
and we'll send something out. And when do you want to send something out?
Probably, I would say before October 15th at the latest,
Okay.
so that they have anyone that might be interested in running for the board this year. There will be a process. Number one, you'll need to have a resume updated and submitted. And then we'll take it from there, and that'll give you some time to do some campaigning and talking with the residents here for campaigning.
Okay, but you'll put out a plan. Are you interested in any, I know that it's just happened right now, but, but are you interested in having anybody contact you ahead of a formal announcement going out?
Well, first let me go ahead and put out the process. I'll be very detailed in what we'll do. And then if you have any questions, of course, I'm always available. Just give me a call. You can find my number in on the roster. But when is the second week's Towers Talk? Do you know the date?
14th.
14th.
Yeah.
I'll have something out on the 14th Towers Talk about the process. And again, if you want to call me, please do, and we'll talk through it.
Okay, so only board members are going to be on the nominee. There is no nominee.
That's part of the process, and that'll be on the 14th.
Okay, I just heard you say that you two are the only ones on the nominating committee. Is that what I heard?
We are the lead of the nominating committee, and we will put the process together on what we need to do, and you will be notified on the 14th. So everybody will have an opportunity to follow the process and nominate themselves if they'd like. Okay?
Thanks, yeah.
Any other questions? All right.
All right, moving on to questions that was submitted. I got two different people asked about the nomination committee and who chose them, and the financial committee and who chose them. We just addressed that. Is there any truth to the rumor that Bill Lane is considering running for the board in spite of the fact that he does not own or rent property at MBT? You guys can answer that, but from my standpoint, I have not received any resumes from anybody that's stating they're going to run. But for an outside board position, you do not have to own or rent any property here at MBT.
I have heard nothing about anyone running for this year.
And no one's told me that they were running.
I've heard the rumor.
It's, like I
I've heard the
said,
rumor, but I have not heard the,
this can be a
from the
very,
person.
this can be a very creative place.
Yeah.
That's why the process will be designed and posted on the 14th.
Okay. The other question was, are the new menus really coming out? I already addressed that as well. Another question was, where is Tommy Miller's plaque that was hanging above the entrance of the sun porch? When we renovated the service center, everything got removed, the plaque and all the pictures. I have not located that plaque. Where is his picture? I did locate the picture. And the other question was, would we want to give him the picture back of the portrait of himself? And I'm fine with giving it back. And
I don't have any objection.
I have no objection.
I have no objection.
okay. The picture is now in my office. That's all the questions that I received before the executive session today.
Okay, so just maybe any other business for the board? Hang on a second, we're going to come back to you guys in a minute, but I just want to make sure there's no more business that the board has. No?
No, we have
Okay.
questions.
I might.
We have 4 questions?
Yes.
There was another question?
No. I mean, from the.
We just answered the floor questions.
Okay. All right.
I think we answered all of them,
I thought
right?
you were
Right.
asked for any from the floor.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask for the floor, I just want to see if there's any more board business.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, see, there is more board business.
I might mention the fact that earlier this week, we received comment cards that we plan to put on the tables in the dining room. There will be an article in the Towers Talk further explaining this to all the people, of course, that are not here today. But because you're here, you get an advanced information on this card. This is a card that you can use to express your satisfaction or dissatisfaction with what's going on in the dining room. It has some questions on one side and some area for comments on the other side. Yes, I know right away that the printing is too small. We will have to get that corrected on the next printing. But these will be on to be on the tables routinely. When you decide to fill out one, you don't have to fill out one the first time you see it. You don't have to fill it out the second time. It's when you feel the urge, you go ahead and fill out a card and place it in the box on the front desk. The box on the front desk in which you would put your check payment if you're paying your HOA fee by check. That way, the card is not handled, touched, seen, altered by anybody from the dining room. It goes into where management will see it. Rita and her staff will review the cards and take the necessary action. There is a place on the back side where you can put your name and condo number, particularly if you want to be contacted by someone individually. You do not need to complete that section of the card if you do not choose. Of course, it's always much nicer for us to be able to get back in touch with you to get a further explanation. So if you would, consider it, put your name on the card, and if we need further information from you, we can then call and get that. But these will be showing up shortly in the dining room. Good?
Before we move to the floor, and I forget, the next board meetings for October 10/26. You guys good with that?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's good for me.
Okay, and then because of Thanksgiving and some people out of town in November, throw it to November 30th. I just kind of wanted to put that out there ahead of time. It's about a month from October, but also a little late, but considering our annual meeting's on the 12th. it may
Well,
be
we
okay.
also have to put a budget presentation meeting in that
Right,
schedule,
Right,
so.
so it'll be plugged in November.
Okay, so I'm just wondering whether or not you kill two birds with one stone. And maybe, I know that we have difficulty closing the books for a given month, before the 15th, right? I know that that's
Yeah.
a challenge, right? But now that we're going into the forecasting and we're going into the budgeting process, maybe we don't need that, because we're gonna set the budget probably based on the September results anyways. So maybe we don't need to have the financial review of the November or of the October.
Yeah, last year, we actually did the budget review on the 30th.
Last year, we did it on the 30th of November,
Yeah.
just so
It was
basically
in
a
the
couple of weeks
evening.
before the
Yeah, it was in the
meeting.
evening, yeah.
So then that, if we did the meeting, the board meeting could be the budget meeting.
I mean, if that's what you guys
Be
want.
included. Be included.
I would do,
We
I
could just
mean,
flip
I'd
it
be
to an evening.
okay with that. And we can,
Because you can't have a budget meeting too early in November because you've got to get the packets out.
right.
So that's the reason why we do it at the end, but we could just flip the 30th
Well,
to.
yeah, I mean, this is about
evening
whether you do it
meeting.
before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I would tend to say maybe before Thanksgiving.
before Thanksgiving?
I would say so.
It's a matter of getting it prepared.
Yeah, I mean,
Get it
then
out,
you
and
gotta
that's
get
the
them out, you
problem.
gotta get them mailed, and you're gonna have the holiday in there, so it's like,
Thanksgiving
It's on the 24th.
on the 24th. The week of Thanksgiving
it's out.
is
It would-
out.
it would,
That puts it the week of the 14th through the 18th. That's too early. You've got October, but you won't have November.
Well, I'm not worried about November, we're gonna use the forecast, because the
Yeah.
forecast has been dead on, so I don't know why we wouldn't just use the forecast and go from there.
The week of the 14th would be the week to do it then. We just wouldn't
So
have.
the 16th,
Now, we could do an evening, we could do the evening meeting, right? No, evening meeting. Do you wanna sort of get back on the calendars on that, because it's a sort of a different thought process, yeah,
Okay.
but I'm okay doing a earlier meeting, an evening meeting, in order to get the budget done. You know, we could throw, you know, whatever's gonna be in the board session, but we won't be doing the financials, because we'll be doing it as part of the budget.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here,
That-
so
does
you
that
guys
sound
just
like
let me
okay to
know.
you guys?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
all right. More questions?
Okay, Diane had the first one
I
out there.
just wanted a little clarification, Brian, because I'm not sure if I heard correctly. When you said about an architect being retained, which I understand is the appearance of the building, but did you say for amenities and things to keep up? Is it, if it's for amenities in comparison with other facilities, it would seem like a, I don't know, management consultant or a different type of firm might be more apropos than an architectural firm. So I just didn't know if I heard you correctly.
Yeah, no, I think we decided on, I mean, there are all sorts of reasons to get any number of different types of consultants to help, right? You know, management consultant is one way to do it. But I think what we determined is that, hey, look, we got a building here, and the building needs a lot to be, you know, looked at. And so the best way to do that, because the architect can help us with both material, visioning, the space, the structure, and I think that's the analysis that we want to get done. And then we want to have a visioning session with them to see what it could be, how does it work with the community. They have the contacts within the community, within the city, to help us work with the city when it comes down time to do that. So that's why we selected the architect instead of a management consultant.
It works. A question about the budget. Are you anticipating having both an operating budget and a capital budget for us to vote on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should. I mean,
I think you should too.
Yeah, I think we, maybe should wasn't the word. Maybe it was, I think we can. We now have enough cost information on the big ticket item that we just have been struggling to get, because it's been a question of materials, and it's been a question of the vendors. And then we had, you know, a committee sort of analyze the different things that were out there. So I think that we are in a position to have that capital budget, yes.
Thank you.
Yes?
Oh, I just kind of a comment. I had read, I guess it was Business Chronicle anyways, about Morrison's letting go a huge number of people from the Wellstar Downtown Medical Center. So I just wonder if you're still having, if Morrison's still saying they're having staffing problems, and if so, why don't they pull some of the people from downtown up? Just was a comment, not a question.
It's a good comment.
What's that?
I said, it's a good comment. I'll check into that.
Why don't we hear good rumors like that?
I know, I haven't heard that.
Thanks for the work you guys are doing. I wanted to know, are you aware that we do have an architect who's still practicing that lives here?
I think you're talking about Andrew. Yeah, he's on our Chase committee. And we have been in contact with him and have
Thanks.
gotten information about his interest in going deeper on this. Okay, thank you.
This is about nominating. It's a little bit early on that, but there is some rumor going around that I thought I'd pass on. And that is, and I know the person who's spreading it, or at least initiated it, and that is that you shouldn't vote for Scott Carrier because he was the one that approved Tommy Miller's pension or the financial arrangements for Tommy Miller. That wasn't the case. Scott wasn't even on the board until 2016, so this happened at the 2012 board. So those kind of comments, I think if anybody needs to clarify, I think Rita is a good one for the owner to contact to ask if this is true from history or not before we actually get busy on the nominating committee.
I tried my best to put the final nail in that coffin.
Okay. Tommy, he keeps popping up.
Understand the question.
Oh, and
We did not understand the question.
I think it was a comment more than a question.
We did not understand the question he asked.
He did not ask a question. There was not a question asked.
What was the comment?
The comment was that Scott did not approve Tommy Miller's pension. This is true. It is a true comment. It is a true statement. So for anybody who didn't know that, it's true. The reason that I laughed a little bit and made a joke about it was because we really tried to put this away many months ago, and we have put it behind us. We've had to, and it's really, if somebody wants to talk about it, let's talk about it off. We don't need to be doing it at a board meeting. So
I might have not been listening at the right time, but do we have new members on a financial committee?
That's what Brian said, he's gonna put out something in next week's Towers Talk.
Okay, there'll be something about the finance committee and about the nominating committee.
Right, Brian's gonna put out something on the finance committee next week. Janice is gonna put something out on nominating by the 14th.
Okay, and that'll all be in the Tower Talk, right? Great, thank you.
Sorry about this, but I just wanted a little clarification on the collection policy, because I know that after a certain period of time, you'll notify owners. How would you notify them? Email, phone call, snail mail, etc.?
Susan calls first, and then if she doesn't get any response, then I will initiate an email, a formal email.
And that would be to the owners as well as?
Owners, and I've been copying the tenant as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and let me just, the very second line, let me just read it again, or actually it's the third. It says, if necessary, negotiations of late HOA fees may be discussed between owner and management before payment is due on the 11th. I would think that if any leasee is going to be late, they would notify their owner.
Necessarily.
Yeah.
I understand. That's why this is the new Mount Vernon Towers policy. So what we're saying is that it gives the owners the understanding that they have a tenant that may be late, which in turn with this new policy may be impacting you, okay? So in the past, and you correct me if I'm not right, Rita, there has been renters or leasees that have gone to Rita with an issue or a problem. Well, it's not Mount Vernon Towers' issue. It should be the leasee with the owner. So that's why we put this in here for our benefit as well as the owner's benefit. Okay?
Anything else? Okay. So with that, I'll motion to adjourn 2:24.
224.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, everybody in favor?
A favor.
Aye. All right, thank you, everybody.